afternoon, everybody. My name is Craig Petronella. Welcome to another cybersecurity podcast live with BJ and Aaron.
Hey,
Hello.
So which topic did you guys choose for the day?
we wanted to take a look at the Coinbase issues that are going on right now and talk about what maybe also what people can do to protect themselves, because this is, after doing some research into this is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. Did you see that one that was like, what was it, 15 or $17 million?
Yeah, in a matter of like 10 minutes.
Yep.
Like it was gone. Like as soon as the person like put their money in it. Hold on, let me see the headlines. $11.6 million lost
Wow.
in under 10 minutes because they fell for a fake notification scam. But the weird thing was that this notification popped up saying that it was from Coinbase, and that something was wrong with their account, like as soon as the person signed up for it and put the money in there. So
Yeah, so what that tells me is that they must have been spying on their email or something to be able to do that, right? You know,
Yes.
like with some of the forensic cases that I've been hired to do, you know, they were in there spying, kind of like we talked about this, I think it was yesterday actually, with how they were looking for keywords like wire transfers or some kind of ACH or something like that, and then all of a sudden they would resurface. I think it was a similar. They didn't disclose. I looked at a bunch of the links for the Coinbase issues, and there's numerous issues, but they didn't really explain how. You know, they didn't say, well, this is how it happened.
yeah, because I think they're kind of unsure at this point. I think what it sounds like to me is that it's either, like you're saying, that there's been somebody on their account, or it could have, I mean, speculation, right? But how do we know it wasn't an insider job of
Well, that's
some
the other
sort?
thing too, and the other thing that's a little nerve-wracking, at least from my perspective, from the cybersecurity side, is it was a little confusing how Coinbase custody, which is separate, that Coinbase custody is their secure storage or secure wallet, um, but it's different than Coinbase.com. They're two separate entities. So the Coinbase custody has what's called a SOC 2 Type 2 report, but the regular one doesn't appear to have anything. So that's pretty alarming. And then if you look at some of the other exchanges, they have much more security. I know BJ and I, when we were doing some more trading with, I think we talked about this on another podcast as well, with leverage trading and things like that. Um, you know, you couldn't even add a wallet address on Kraken without, you know, authenticating like 5 times or whatever it was. I mean, it wasn't something that somebody could have done really without the user's knowledge.
Yeah, it's
But
fairly complicated. You know what else I've noticed about Coinbase is because I use both. I use Coinbase and I use the one that's like the one that has the lesser securities that you described, not the one that has all the SOC 2 type 2 stuff. So
well, you don't use the Coinbase custody to trade. It's storage. It's just cold storage.
yeah,
It's
but you
their
know how they
one.
have the Coinbase. Okay, maybe I'm confusing two different things because you know how they have like Coinbase app and then they have Coinbase wallet or something. They're two different things.
No, 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 no. So they have Coinbase and then they have Coinbase Pro. So
Okay.
Coinbase is like the thumb down version, and then Coinbase Pro has got some more advanced graphing and things like that for more like day trading.
Well, and the two, and if those are the right two that I'm thinking of, they're not interchangeable. You have to sign up for them separately and set up wallets for them. But the one that I use,
Well, hold on, wait.
app,
So you actually can use one account, but the wallets are not the same.
right,
You have
right. The
but
wallets are not.
they are the same. Like you can switch. Like if you're Coinbase, you can go to Coinbase Pro without creating a whole nother ID verified wallet, or I'm sorry, user account. But the wallet addresses are different.
Is different, right? So the one that I'm using, because I use an Apple phone, so I set up facial recognition like to log in, as a second
Mhm.
step. It has to authorize my face. Well, it keeps dropping off for some reason. So I've set it up multiple times and it'll work for a few days and it'll keep making me do the face verification and then it'll drop off and then it doesn't require it. And I don't know why it's dropping off because I'm not changing anything in the settings, but something's inconsistent with the technology they're using because it's not staying there. That setting is not staying.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that was pretty alarming when I was looking at some of the news articles and doing some research, and there was one attorney. I don't know if you read the article about the attorney that had about, I think it was about $1 million him and his wife had in crypto, and it sounded like he had multi-factor enabled.
Yep.
And then he was driving or something, and then he got a notification. I think it said that the notification was by text message. I'd have to go back and look at it.
I've got it pulled up here. You're correct.
Oh, okay. So, but then that notification was obviously the bad actor, and all his stuff got wiped out, and it was just a big mess, and nobody gave him a straight answer on how it all happened. So, yeah, I mean, is it an insider job, or is it, what's going on? Because, I was looking into it, and the lack of a SOC report, and it's kind of alarming, I mean, there's got to be some safeguards, like, we talk about NIST and different kinds of frameworks around NIST 800-171 and ISO 27001 and all these different regulatory frameworks. But why isn't there a public available download for Coinbase?
Well, yeah. So what it says here too, which I think is really interesting, just reading, and I'll link this, post this link, but it says that the retired attorney clicked on the message which said someone had logged into his account. So it was actually accurate, but then he logged on, and soon he got an email that his two-factor authentication had been changed. So his security settings had been compromised somehow, right? Mm-hmm. So he was able to log in, and he watched it as they were withdrawing, but he couldn't do anything. And the problem is that Coinbase, they only have email. They've since changed it, but there's nobody that you can they didn't have any phone lines to contact anybody there to stop it. So he was just like watching this happen, like as they took $700,000.
But you would think that there would be some kind of additional security safeguards around, who's logging in, even if they successfully authenticate. If they're coming in from an adversarial country, and the ID verification check was like New York or Florida or whatever, well, obviously that's probably going to throw a red flag, right? So why wouldn't somebody notify him and say, look, is this you? Kind of like a credit card, when you're out of town on vacation and you don't go to that place to use the gas station or whatever to fill up your car. Sometimes you'll get a fraud alert. So why isn't there kind of technology like that there?
Well, do you know that this is, again, a situation, like you pointed out, the difference in security levels between the exchanges? Because Coinbase seems to be like you have a lot of entry level crypto enthusiasts on Coinbase. And I use it too, because it's very convenient, right? That's the C word. It's very convenient because you can really transfer money very quickly because of they don't have all the extra measures. Because when you use Kraken, for example, if you use a new device, not even being outside of the country or anything, but any new device, it's going to make you verify it by email. So, because I use a VPN, and so it makes me do it every single time. And so that's just another layer there. And then they have like that global settings lock. So yeah, this is a trade-off, right, with the convenience. But you pointed out a good thing to talk about, Aaron, too, with the possibility, not saying that there was insider threat, because it very well may not have been, but it's a good topic to bring up because, as Craig always mentions, training is so important. And we see a lot of organizations that don't do training, right, with their employees. And so they don't know what to look for. But it happens. Like there was just an article yesterday, and this happened years ago, but I guess there was an interview done with that singer Grimes, who's like Elon Musk's off and on significant other. And she had admitted in the interview, and now might be facing legal ramifications, but in the interview, she admitted that years ago, someone had taken a photo of her that she didn't want posted, and they posted it on their blog. And she had a friend who worked at a gaming company, and that friend tapped into the network somehow and did a DDoS on them to get that picture down. And they blackmailed them and told them they had to take the picture down or they wouldn't get it back up. So basically, she essentially admitted to hacking this company over a picture. So those things, that's just a perfect example right there. That's Elon Musk's girlfriend, right? So these things happen, and it's unfortunate, but it's true. And so training is very important to know what to look for.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've always said training on both sides, for the company and or the exchange as well as the individual. Training is so essential nowadays. The testing, the training, the attestation, the certificates of compliance, all of that is all necessary now.
If
But
not
even
for you training us on what to look for with phishing emails, I can probably think of 50 examples of things I would have clicked on in the last
Oh
6 months
yeah.
alone had I not been
well,
really
you
well
know what's
trained.
kind of interesting too is right before we fired off the podcast on this, I got a phishing email, and guess who it was about?
Uh,
Coinbase.
oh,
No way.
so they're hijacking the
but
news. Yeah. Oh,
but
wow.
it's so bad of a phishing email. It says in big blue, coin base, coin
Oh,
hyphen
wow.
base, and then it
Oh,
says,
God.
dear customer, we found unusual and suspicious activities in your Coinbase account. We've decided to ban your account to protect you from any loss. Please call the support team now for ID verification and to continue your use of your account. Note, failure to do this will result in a permanent ban on your account.
Yeah. So
Thanks
they're
and
praying, they're
regards,
using
Team Coinbase.
psychology.
And then it has a 1540907 number. I won't say the
Yeah.
rest of it. But and then it comes from a Gmail user.
Oh my gosh. Are
And
you
these things,
serious?
they're so layered, just like how you always preach about cybersecurity needs to be layered, right? As you can see from this phishing email example, this is a layered approach to a social engineering campaign because number one, they hijacked off of a news story. There's things going on with Coinbase. Then they're preying on your fears about something happening to your account. Then they're preying on your whatever you want to call it, fears mixed with dignity and whatever, because now they're saying that you might be banned. So now that hits a different chord in your,
Right.
your mind. And then not only from a psychological perspective are they using a layered approach, they're also, I would venture to say that every link in that email and the phone number itself is probably baited with something ugly. And so the possibilities of you doing something that will negatively impact you are probably layered as well in that email. So they're using a layered approach to everything they do as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, the times that we've done our own, phishing, set up our own phishing
Campaigns.
campaigns. Thank you. It is very layered. You have to think about everything. You have to think about what it's going to look like. Is the email going to go to spam?
Yeah.
Like.
And to be clear, we did phishing campaigns as part of a pen test,
Yeah,
not
but
because we were phishing people.
like even
Yeah.
in our own practice, remember we made the decision to use a system with dashboard technology, right? So we would, because of all the phishing emails, we wanted to make sure that our ecosystem and our clients were getting messages from us and they wouldn't be phished emails, right? So we encouraged them to use the portal system. So just like with your bank, I mean, your bank is not supposed to be sending you emails, and if you have a notification, you're supposed to log into your dashboard account and things like that. But never ever log in with the link on the email.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Go the normal way as if you didn't get that email. Do it how you normally do it without responding directly to that piece of whatever it is.
And never call the phone number in the email.
Yeah.
Always go direct to the manufacturer of the website and call on the contact page.
Yeah, but we should mention that people don't realize that phone numbers can have spyware linked to them. And so a phone number, and I don't mean to be over alarming because people have enough to worry about, but it's just true. Don't dial numbers that are linked to these types of messages you get because the numbers themselves can be linked to spyware and other things.
Well, not only that, but I mean, they could have highly trained social engineering people on the other ends that are persuading them to divulge more information, like a PIN number or whatever, personal identifiable information, and
not to mention the biometrics angle of your voice being recorded. And we know there's technology out there that can duplicate a human voice very effectively. And
that's a good point. So you have to be careful. They might ask you questions that you'll have to say, yes or no or whatever. So they might record your voice saying that snippet.
Yeah,
it's just a time, and this seems like total chaos right there out there right now. So I mean, we can have hope that maybe this will all start to get better, but the proper proper cyber hygiene is obviously the right route, right, for this to get better. And that's a good time to mention, for an example, like, you can't underestimate any threats out there. You can't assume, like, let's talk about the fact that Microsoft and NVIDIA, right, huge big tech companies, possibly, well, we know they got breached, but it's looking like possibly they were breached by a group that's led by a teenager. And so, that's the fact of the state of things that we're in. You cannot underestimate any threats out there in cyberspace. You have to take the proper precautions. I mean, if Microsoft and NVIDIA were breached by a teenager,
like, bringing it, but I want to bring it back to this, Coinbase thing for a second. So, every device has a unique identifier. Typically, a network card has what's called a MAC address ID. So, I mean, wouldn't a simple way, like, if I'm going to sign up for Coinbase from my phone or from my desktop, there's going to be a unique MAC address ID on my phone, and there's going to be a unique MAC address ID on my desktop. Why couldn't whitelisting technology be enabled such that when I sign up, that's kind of like your IP address, right? It goes a step further because this is a hardware MAC address. Why not have these things on file that are part of my profile and persona of who I am, right? So that when a bad actor tries to exploit that and the check doesn't match, meaning the MAC address doesn't match and the IP, you have all these red flags, right? It's like, it should throw a big red flag to support saying, hey, look, they're not really who they say they are.
Well, it could, right, if those proper steps were taken to.
But that's my point, though. I mean,
if the proper steps were taken.
Yeah.
But my point, though, is that the business, needs to be taking security seriously and would assume to be taking it more seriously than the average consumer. So these are like basic things that should be done for any business, like a bank, anything.
Yeah.
If you are, there might be a legitimate reason you're on vacation, whatever, but that's when there should be like either a support person or somebody stepping in to say, hey, look, this is a red flag. Is this real? Let's reach out to that person.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the defense of Coinbase, this problem is very widespread. They're making mistakes with their security, and so is pretty much everyone else, right? Because you remember we had a situation with a financial institution, and we found evidence during our pen test of multiple brute force attacks on specific employees. And, it didn't seem to be too alarming to staff. And we and our partners with the AI driven software found it to be very alarming. So, it's kind of a common and very widespread problem, right? That the proper, like, Craig, you're very meticulous about cybersecurity and cyber layers. And like, you have a very pristine, like you set up a very pristine environment, in your cyberspace. And that's not common. That's not.
I think the other missing link here is that since crypto specifically is still, regulations are still being hashed out and decided upon. I think the big differentiator, though, of a bank, for example, like if any consumer goes and opens a bank account, they immediately get what's called FDIC insurance on that bank account. I can't remember if it's like 100,000 or 250,000 or something like that, right. Where if something were to happen, there's that insurance, right? Where I'm not aware of any kind of insurance like that exists on the crypto side yet.
No, the whole
but I've never seen it.
No, cyberspace and then crypto definitely falls under that umbrella as kind of the Wild West, right? We get calls all the time from people that are frantic about hacks that they think have happened on their home network or small business network. And there's kind of a common misconception that there's like a Ghostbuster line to call for cyber, events that have happened. And people don't realize, like, there's really not anyone to call. Like you could call a private business like us, and enlist our services. But as far as like public assistance, like a 911 type situation, like there's not anyone to call, really.
No, well, it's just so like out of scope and complicated, right? I mean,
it's cutting edge, and even the government, as we know, has been behind on their cyber hygiene. So it's
so it's not just exchanges, it's banks.
It's
everyday businesses, it's the supply chain. I mean, these issues are everywhere. But I think if we can, and I've said this before, if we can simmer down these regulations, adopt CMMC, That's the most modern framework. Make everybody, make that the standard. Make every business of all shapes and forms adhere to that standard. Simplify it. Do the third-party audits. Do the assessments. Do the third-party pen tests, all that stuff. Do the checks and balances, keeping cyber and IT separate. That's the way. That's the way forward. I mean,
and
that's
even as a more basic starting point, just that list that was linked to the Biden announcement that was, MFA, the newest and most modern effective cyber tools, and then list help of a professional. Don't try to go at it alone. Wild West out there.
Going back to the MFA though, wasn't there something at Coinbase that there was an issue with their MFA?
And you've been hearing a lot about possible problems with MFA.
So how do you know? And I don't know the answer, but I'm just going to say it anyway. How do you know that all these, there's not just one or two people. There's isn't there like thousands of people?
6,000.
Yeah.
So over 6,000 or 6,000 people, this is affected. That's not a small number.
No, it's not.
Now, what is it possible? And again, I'm speculating when I say this, but is it possible that all of them kind of fell victim to that flaw?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know. A full investigation and forensic would have to be done. But my point is that it's kind of interesting that so many people are affected.
Yeah.
And then this flaw happens, and then then all these people are like left without the money, right? They're basically life savings were drained, and they have no recourse. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, actually, and speaking on that too, there's something that I highlighted in here. The retired lawyer that got $700,000 stolen from him.
I thought it was $1 million, or him and his wife or something. It was a lot. Anyway,
it equaled like 700. There's two different ones. There's one that was like 11.6 million, but theirs was the one that was only $700,000. But it says here, so like, they eventually did set up a call center so that you can speak to somebody live, but they have very strict regulations about who can actually call. And then, so after they finally set that up, he talked to somebody, and after a couple months, they gave him $500 in Bitcoin after
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, how alarming.
He says it felt like they kicked sand in my face. Is there even anybody senior at Coinbase looking at this? Somebody make a calculation and said, okay, this is what happened to this guy. He lost 21 Bitcoin. Let's give him $500.
But here's the other thing. So that guy was a lawyer that this happened to, right? So lawyers are pretty sophisticated, right?
Right.
So why would they? And again, I'm speculating. I don't know enough about this situation. It's just this whole thing is quite puzzling for me from a cyber perspective. But why would they give him $500 in Bitcoin or anything for that matter if their stance is they didn't do anything wrong?
I guess they labeled it like a courtesy credit of some sort, which is more of a credit. This is a whole.
Was that 0.1% or something like that?
That's pretty low, but the crypto is a different animal because a lot of people that are crypto enthusiasts and believers are putting their life savings into crypto. And so this is a real dangerous situation for the common folk, because a lot of people are putting their hopes and money into crypto, like all of it. And so this is
well, I've said this many times. The golden rule for that is stored on a cold wallet.
Yeah.
And I know people have said, well, what if the cold wallet fails? Just FYI, the funds don't actually live on that hardware. They're in your wallet, which is the 24-word passphrase.
Right. So as long as you have
hardware,
you have your money.
Yeah. So now, if you were concerned, obviously hardware is going to fail, right? But everyone listening, never ever disclose that 24-word passphrase. That is everything for you. That you have to protect that like a golden bar.
Yeah.
You can't share it with anybody. Don't type it on anything on your computer. Don't digitize it. It needs to be physically secured in a safe or wherever. I would not copy it, because if anybody gets those 24 words, they can recreate that wallet and liquidate it. They don't have to have the hardware. A lot of people think, oh, it's really in this. Here, I'll show you one. Oh, it's really in this this ledger. That's where all my crypto goes, and it's cold because it's not connected.
That's an actual ledger there? I've never seen one. That's it?
Yeah, this is the Bluetooth Ledger Nano X.
Oh,
So, but people think, oh, well, my crypto's here. No, the crypto, when you get this thing, and by the way, don't ever buy one of these unless you buy it direct from the manufacturer. Never buy from a reseller. Never, ever buy it from eBay. My point is when you set that thing up, the first thing that you do is it says, okay, we need to create your wallet. We're going to give you 24 words, and it shows you all these different words, and then you write them down. You physically write them in pen on a card it comes with, okay? That is the creation with cryptography of your wallet, okay? So if I want to buy 5 of these, like
so what's the point of having what's the point of that thing in your hand then if the 24 words are the wallet? Why do you need that machine or that
because this gives you the ability to put a PIN number on it and then connect it to your computer to authorize transactions. Okay. So that's the function of the hardware.
Okay. So that you don't have to type the 24 words. You're protecting the 24 words with
correct. Yeah. Everything. The 24 words are. Remember we talked about hashing and salting. They're hashed in this.
Okay.
So the only thing that you have to remember as a human is the PIN number. The PIN number you set.
So you're protecting the 24 words by using that device there. Because the 24 words are really where your money is.
The 24 words are where your money is. So like if I want
from a cryptography standpoint, that's more secure than a 24-digit password. You have 24 words. Like that's
they're 24 separate words. Much more secure.
That's an increase for sure.
So you can take this thing, you can literally buy 2 of them, or 3 of them, or 5 of them, or 10 of them. You could set them all up with that same 24 word passphrase. And then they're all clones of one another. They're all exactly the same.
So you could hand them out to family.
Hand them out to family or trusted members. And then when you want to authorize a transaction, you can do that. There's other things called multi-sig and more advanced things that are even far more secure than that. But if most people would just use cold wallets, then a lot of this stuff would be so much more secure.
Oh, wow. Because then you still need, even if someone gets your cold wallet, let's just say someone steals it physically from your house. When
if somebody stole this from my house,
PIN number.
They need the PIN number.
Yeah. So you just never write that down. You never keep
Never write the PIN number down,
Well, yeah, though I didn't realize that the 24 words was actually the money. So that's like the knowledge is the power, and you're protecting the knowledge by using backing it to that device and linking it through a code. That's real. So that makes a lot of sense. So that definitely sounds like the right way to store crypto.
I got a question too about that. Can you use like an authenticator or a one-time, was it OTAP one-time authentication password?
So when you that was a Ledger that I showed you. So Ledger has software called Ledger Live that you can connect, and when you connect with Ledger Live, it asks you to physically connect it or use Bluetooth, and then use your PIN number to authenticate, and then you have to accept or allow the transaction.
Okay,
so you have to go through those hoops. So let's say I want to send you Bitcoin. I would have to have what's called the Bitcoin app on the Ledger device. I'd have to open the Ledger, and the way to open it is to enter my PIN number. Once I enter my PIN number and it successfully authenticates, then I can open any of the apps on there. If I'm going to transfer Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin, I'm going to open the Bitcoin app, and then I'm going to communicate it with Ledger Live of what am I doing? Am I selling it, or am I buying it, transferring it, whatever? And then it'll say, okay, do you authorize this transaction? You have to approve or deny it within a certain period of time. So it's all got authentication.
That's definitely enhanced security. And we know that a common, people may not realize, but one of we actually we're Petronella Technology Group and Petronella Cybersecurity, but also blockchain security is us. And so this is a good time to mention that there's a very common misconception amongst the whole Web3 blockchain crypto crowd that blockchain is just inherently secure. And let me be clear, the blockchain itself, the chain is considered an immutable record because each block has a portion of the previous block, and it's held by so many different people or nodes. that part may be true, but the infrastructure that you're using to access that chain, your network, your IoT connected devices, all these things that we're hearing, all these possible ways that something can be breached, that's all still vulnerable. And so just because you are using crypto, it doesn't mean you're not susceptible to a breach or a hack. That's not true at all. I mean, the chain itself is considered secure, but nothing else other than the chain is considered secure. Like everything connected to the chain is still a vulnerability that you should,
look at what happened. Look at what happened with Ethereum. I don't know if you remember, but when Ethereum first came out, there was a flaw with one of the smart contracts and millions of dollars where one of the developers, the Ethereum developers, I can't remember if he took the money or something happened. I can't remember. I'd have to research it. But my point is that it was the developer exploited the flaw, and the developer actually said, "I didn't steal the money. it was a flaw in the system."
Wow.
But I mean, obviously, ethics are involved in that. But my point is that the consensus for the Ethereum had to do what's called a hard fork, and fork the whole network, the whole blockchain, to fix that coding error. So my point is that even though the blockchain may be secure, the technology, because it's of the cryptography and then the mining and consensus and all the things that have to happen to add blocks to the chain.
Right.
The other things like the code of the software, in this case, the smart contract code, if the code has a bug in it, the whole point of smart contracts are, reduce zero trust, no humans making decisions. They're all like, if this happens, then this happens.
Right.
And then money is moved and exchanged and sent or whatever, all on autopilot. So if that code is wrong and there's a wrong wallet address in there or whatever.
It often is wrong. There's auditors that do this. And I interviewed one of them previously for a book you were writing. And literally he showed me a list, because it's public knowledge, of all these different blockchains that were found like their code was flawed. And some of these people are not passing audits. And so again, that word layers comes to mind, because what you're describing is a layered situation. So you have the blocks themselves that can't be changed. They're immutable unless there was like a majority attack, which is uncommon or rare. But other than that, there's all these different layers. The code itself could have flaws in it, and it does often, as we know from the auditors that we've spoken to. And then you have all the people's personal computers and their network and their IoT devices and their smart fridge that can affect everyone else on the network. So again, it's a layered problem. It's a layered situation. It's not just what people think. Oh, crypto, Web3, blockchain, it's all secure, it's all immutable. Nope, the blocks are. That's it.
Well, and going back to stolen funds, whatever exchange you're on, or it doesn't matter. The point is that if funds are moved without your authorization, even if you made a mistake, all of that's on a public blockchain. So eventually, it's kind of like, have you ever seen one of those TV shows where they find a mass murderer from 30 years ago, whatever, then they convict him with DNA or something? It's the same thing. Like, all these people, like that lawyer that lost all that money, all this stuff is on the public record.
True.
So when law enforcement catches up and forensics catch up and they chase the rabbit trail, eventually they're going to find where it is. And now it might lead to an adversarial country, or it might lead to, different hands. But look at what happened with the Colonial Pipeline.
Yeah.
The FBI was able to successfully recover, what was it, 600 million, or it was a lot of money. It wasn't all of it.
That's a good point. When that argument is just, it falls apart when you really study it. The argument that crypto is for criminals and cash is not. It falls apart when you study it, because you'll never be able to find out what happened with a cash transaction last week. But you're right that all this stuff is stored on a block, and just because
it's all public record, and
just because the mystery is not solved today, it doesn't mean it can't be looked at a later time.
Yeah, that's my point. Eventually it'll catch up to you. So, I mean, like I said, it might lead, like, look at what happened with Colonial Pipeline. The mistake they made was they used an exchange to flip the crypto that they were collecting from the ransom fees paid. They then transferred that to fiat wherever they were in whatever country. And then that's how they got busted, because the FBI was watching that exchange. They saw the transaction, and that's how they got nailed. Wow. So my point is that all these we'll call them unsolved crypto mysteries, all these unsolved crypto mysteries, your days are numbered if you're a criminal, because it's all on there. Now, you may use, Bitcoin ATM, there's all sorts of other things to kind of anonymize that
But you can't large, huge transactions like they're doing at a Bitcoin ATM.
But my point is that maybe not all of it can be recovered, but it is all public.
You're right. That data is all there, and data doesn't lie. You're right, because you even have there's algorithms, right? That let's just take all the people and the FBI out of the mix. There's algorithms that literally are the framework, the spine of all of these chains, and they have the data. They know where this stuff happened at, and that data is not going to go away. You're right. So when you look at it from that point of view, the argument that cash is the up and up way to transfer money and crypto is somehow dark, it makes no logical sense at all, because it's quite actually the opposite, I would say, because this is a system that every transaction is recorded.
Well, and what's interesting too is that not only is it recorded, but there's something called KYC, or know your customer, and ID verification checks and things like that. So let's say with the Colonial Pipeline or whatever, somewhere in the world, as crypto becomes more mainstream, and there is more security and regulation around it, eventually people are going to have to disclose, well, how did you just fall upon 100 Bitcoins? You know what I mean?
Right.
And then obviously IRS and wherever else in the world, they're going to want tax money for that, because that's property or whatever they decide that it is,
Right.
But my point though is, with it all being public record, I feel like my opinion is that eventually it could be, a solved crypto case from wherever.
It sounds like it's got the framework to be a far more secure system than cash could ever be, simply because cash does have an anonymous factor and crypto does not.
Yep, every transaction is recorded.
It's recorded, and it doesn't matter how many times you move crypto from one wallet to another, every move is recorded, so it's still traceable.
Even if you buy one of those ledgers, or you buy a Trezor, or you use some other service or whatever, if you have Bitcoin or you have crypto and you're going to move it, you have to pay the transaction fees to move it. And that's the same for anybody. Even if you own the wallets, if you're going to move it from wallet to wallet, you got to pay the fees. And then the reason why is because you need to tell the world in the blockchain that your stuff doesn't live on this wallet anymore, it lives on this wallet, and all of those transactions, all those blocks are recorded on the public ledger.
Yeah, you're right. It may be obscure and hard to read data right now, or hard to track data right now for where we are at technologically, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way, and that data is not going anywhere. It's stored permanently.
Yeah. All right, well, we should wrap up here.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys.
Yep.
Have a great weekend, everybody.